Hey, what is up? We are now live on Facebook. This is also going to be an epic podcast on my Beyond Balance podcast. But I met Mr. John Porter a few weeks ago, and I had a really important conversation with him that made me think. We're going through some really interesting times in the world, and we're not going to get into big financial talk on this podcast and on this live video, but I wanted to share John's business with you because it is so epic. It's such a brilliant idea, and it's a way of bringing people together in a time where we have been divided. I think it's just such a beautiful business. So I'm going to just really quickly share with you a little bit about John Porter, okay? And he is somebody who's been in the barter payment space for 25 years, okay? He is the founder and CEO of Barter Pay, the largest and fastest growing business-to-business barter system in Canada. He is also the founder and president of Barter Pay, Pay It Forward Foundation. Love it, by the way. A national registered charity that helps businesses get back to their local community without paying cash. John is currently developing Barter It, a person-to-person barter system that will be Canada's parallel economy for the people. And that's what I'm really excited about. He's been somebody that, when I heard about his business, I was like, this is such a brilliant idea. And when you told me that you've been building it for 25 years for such a time as this, like now you know what all of this hard work, all of this equity, all of this sacrifice, everything that you've done has been created for. So John, I'd love to introduce you. Thank you so much for being here today with me. Thank you for taking the time to share with my audience something that I truly believe in and something that I know is your life's work. Would you just give people a little taste of who you are and tell them a bit about how this came about?
For sure, yeah. Well, it all started back in literally the late 90s. In 1996, I was going to be heading to Waterloo University to be a civil engineer, and started to take on some summer jobs to save up for school, and stumbled across this bartering economy that was being built in the Toronto area in like 1996. Yeah, so they actually ended up hosting a convention that year in Toronto where a lot of the barter companies from the US came up and attended that. I bumped into somebody there who was going to want to bring their brand into Canada. And I was like, hey, I'll kind of own the first franchise kind of thing. And so latched onto that and didn't end up going to university, started the bartering economy. And the rest is history. It was way too early to the market. I mean, the mindset of businesses and business owners and entrepreneurs wasn't thinking about alternate forms of payment, right? There was cash, check, Visa, MasterCard. Sure. And so it was really way too early to the market, but just stuck with it long enough and really persevered and just one by one built this bartering ecosystem called Barter Pay, which we became Barter Pay in 2018, May of 2018, actually 5 years ago next month, after I came back from a meeting with Gary Vaynerchuk in New York City, which we can talk about later. But that was kind of the impetus of rebranding to Barter Pay and launching that in 2018.
It's so interesting when it comes to leadership and ideas, there are a few different factors, and timing is definitely one of them. But I got to tell you, I'm so grateful that someone like you had the vision and foresight to continue with it and continue building something that you believed in so wholeheartedly. I'd love for you to kind of share your story about how this all unfolded, and like what you guys have gone through over the last couple of years and how this has evolved and grown exponentially over the last couple of years because, of things like CBDC or things that are coming into the economy, and people are looking for alternate ways to pay or alternate ways to swap products. I mean, for us, we used to live in the country. We had a 10-acre hobby farm, right? And we would have loved a system like this where we could give away veggies or trade veggies for eggs or, trade eggs for meat or whatever it was. I think it's brilliant. And there was nothing really other than like Facebook Marketplace, that you could go and do something like that. So tell us a little bit more about like how it's grown and changed over the last couple of years, and what was the driving force? I know I also saw a reel, which I'm going to share some of your content with people over the next couple of weeks, but I saw a reel of your kids building a business over COVID using the barter system. So like I think that's pretty cool.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, to be quite honest, I tried to leave the barter payment space no less than 7 times. Through the last 25 years, and every
entrepreneurship at its finest, right?
I was like, why am I doing this? Like, it makes no sense. Like, it's like, I know it's a good value proposition. I know it does make sense for businesses, but it's so much like headwinds and just inertia that we have to get through to build this marketplace, this ecosystem where people are trying to transact in this new sort of form of payment, these barter credits. And so, but every time I could be a real estate agent, I could go start a construction company, I could do whatever and make more money with less headaches and everything's great. But every time I thought about leaving, literally like a big magnetic pull, like a lighthouse just calling me in from a storm, I was like, nope, I've got to go back into this barter business for whatever reason. And yeah, when things kind of went awry there in 2020, I kind of like, we looked at each other and said, oh, like now we understand. And we didn't fully understand at that point. It wasn't until like, Ottawa and those sort of things, the Freedom Convoy. And then we started to really get it because people started to contact us and say, hey, we want to barter. Like we need to kind of find ways to exchange value without having to use fiat. And so, we really started to understand the meaning behind what we've been building for a quarter century and, just the value that it has and what it's going to do for the future.
All right. So let's dive into this and tell people how, can you explain to people how Barter Pay works?
Yeah, for sure. So Barter Pay is our B2B platform. That's the one we've been talking about mostly here. But we've been building that since 1996. But in 2018, we rebranded officially to Barter Pay. But basically what we are now is a business that helps Canadian businesses get the things that they need without having to use money. They can just offer up their own goods and services as a form of payment. We all know that, bartering in and of itself is the oldest form of commerce. It's how business was invented, right? But for two parties to enter into a fair trade, each side has to want what the other person has at the same time and at the same value. It's actually called the coincidence of wants, believe it or not. Yeah. And so that was one major problem with sort of regular bartering that we saw. The other thing that we saw in the marketplace was that every business throughout the course of a year, doesn't matter if it's a service-based business or a product-based business, has what we call spare capacity. Service-based businesses have unsold time and space. Golf courses, hotels, massage therapy, dentists, architects, whatever. Product-based businesses have extra idle inventory from time to time on the shelf or in the warehouse. And so when we thought about this idea of solving the problem of the coincidence of wants and the idea of spare capacity, we thought, what if we could mash those two things together, create this bartering economy that solves those two problems? And so we did. We launched a platform called Barter Pay. Businesses can now open an account with Barter Pay, establish an account number. They offer up their spare capacity to the network. In exchange, they earn barter credits. One barter credit equals $1 for valuation purposes. And as they earn these barter credits, regardless of who acquired their good or service, they can take that newly earned revenue stream of barter value and they can go and barter and trade with anybody in the entire ecosystem. So no longer are they restricted to these conundrum of one-to-one trade relationships. It's like a one-to-many ecosystem, like this big sharing economy where all these businesses are monetizing their spare capacity in real time and getting back things that they normally would have spent their hard-earned dollars on. And thereby it's kind of a big boost to their bottom line and their cash flow.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah. Now it's brilliant timing. It's brilliant timing. I'm
really
just telling you, really, I'm so proud of you guys for persevering. And here's the thing, as you're speaking, I'm like, oh my gosh, I used to do this as a hairstylist all the time, right? You bring two values together and you decide what service is valuing the other. So I would trade haircuts and hair colors for massages, for getting my nails done. And sometimes even hotel stays, we would trade services, right? Yep. And so what you've done is come up with a fair platform where people can meet and do that. I would only know that if I had a client sitting in my chair, right? Now you can go to this network of people, like a Rolodex of people that are doing the same thing, and you can find things that you want to trade for. That's so brilliant.
For sure. It's like what happens when a dog groomer needs a new roof on their house for $5,000 or $10,000, and obviously the roofer doesn't need $10,000 worth of dog grooming, and they might not even have any pets. So it's like, how do you trade? And how do you find a roofer that would need $10,000 worth of dog grooming? That's another problem. So timing and value, the coincidence of wants is that's why money was invented, because it got rid of the coincidence of wants. So you can sell whatever you wanted to somebody else, get the money, and go and buy from wherever else you wanted, right? So we just have created this in a cash is still king, obviously, right now. But as we move through this, these stages of where we're headed, barter is going to become much more, prominent. And the organized bartering system that needs to be developed, which is Barter Pay and Barter It for people, is what is going to solve some problems for people as we move forward here. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So can you give us a couple of examples in real time of how this works and how people could use it for their business or for their product or service?
For sure. Yeah. So, and we deal with businesses that are small solopreneurs, home-based businesses, right up to $500 million companies in Canada. So don't think it's just for big businesses, and don't think it's just for small businesses. It's really for any business that has this, they're creative, forward thinking, and love the idea of barter. Excuse me. Yeah, a couple of examples. So we had like a small restaurant in Hamilton that needed to get it. They're going through like a rebrand. And they needed a new sign for their restaurant. And without barter pay, they would have just gone out and got their 3 quotes for their sign. It came in around $5,000. They had the quotes actually when I met them. And they were about to spend $5,000 of their hard-earned cash, their money out of their bank on this sign. That's just how normally things would work. But they made the smart choice when they met barter pay to open their barter pay account. We had immediately advertised their gift cards and some catering out to the system. They got some quick jobs and some gift card sales, which racked them up 5,000 barter credits from all these different people within the barter economy, barter pay. Mm-hmm. Then they took that 5,000 barter credits and they went and spent it with a sign company in Burlington and got that sign that they needed for their restaurant. So instead of having to spend 5,000 cash, they issued 5,000 worth of their own currency, which is their own gift cards.
That's right. Yeah.
So what that does is it forces those people who bought the gift cards to go back and reciprocate and use their business, which is marketing and new business and incremental at their food cost, which is like 30, 40 cents on the dollar. So they're saving money, they're getting new business, they're conserving cash, they're reaching a new audience, all because they're plugging themselves into a bartering economy versus just going and buying the sign like they normally would, right?
There's one thing about me that I love is efficiency. And when you can check all of those boxes and like you're helping your business, you're helping other people, you're promoting other business, like you're networking, all of that improves the economy. And we've had some massive blows to the economy and small business over the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. Being able to network and be able to support other people and like-minded people that are looking for ways outside of that currency, right? Outside of being a part of their community without having to do that. I just think is so cool. And so how did you even start this? Like, how did this even start in the beginning? What was the idea? And then how did you come up with the funds? How did you do all of this?
Yeah. So, like I mentioned, I bumped into somebody who was sort of trying to start something in Toronto and then latched onto that other brand that came from the US. But we changed direction back in 2012. Actually, we can talk about this in a second too. But in 2012, we came to a real crossroads because we had to build our own software. And we had to actually sell our home. We sold the farm. Like I woke up one day and said to Debbie, we're gonna have to sell this 30-acre property. It was a vineyard in Jordan, Ontario, like in Canada here, right on the edge of the Niagara Escarpment. And I was like, I know this is our dream home, but like if we got to build this software and we can't raise the money, we've got to go and sell this. Like we got to just put the money in ourselves. And so after a year of sort of thinking about it and whatever, Debbie woke up one morning, got a download and said, yep, okay, we got to do this. And so we jumped in, built some software. But yeah, from the beginning, like literally when I was 20 years old, remember I was heading to university and I was like, nope, I feel called to be doing this barter system. And so one of the first things we needed was some office furniture because back then you had to have an office to be professional. And so we wanted to find some like used workstations, like those cubicle things. And so I just whip open the Yellow Pages. I'm not sure how old your audience is, but some of them might know what the Yellow Pages were and some of them might not. But we whip open the Yellow Pages. I started cold calling office furniture companies in Hamilton, where we were launching from in Ontario. And I came across a guy after, a bunch of no's, I came across a guy named Terry Webster in Ancaster, owned Terrence Webster Design. And he's like, yeah, I love horse trading. I love bartering. Come see me. I got some used workstations in my warehouse. I just did a deal with McMaster for some new stuff. I was like, okay. And so I went up there and sat down with them. He's like, okay, yeah, I'll sell you, a couple of these workstations. They're about $3,000 total for 3 of them. And I'll take it in barter credits. I was like, great. And I start filling out the paperwork by hand because that's what we did. And I knew the question was coming. And of course, 10 minutes into filling out that paperwork, he says, oh, John, I forgot to ask, before I actually, sell you these workstations and take these 3,000 barter credits, where can I spend the barter credits? Where can I go and use them to get back things that I need? And I had to literally stop what I was doing, look him straight in the eye and say, Terry, you're not going to like this answer, but nowhere. You're the first business to join the barter system, the barter economy. And it's like trying to sell the first fax machine. Who are you going to fax to?
Totally.
Right. So it's like, and he's like, oh, you want me to give you this furniture, take these credits. I can't use them anywhere. I was like, yeah, trust me, just trust me. Make me a list of the things that you're looking for in your business, a wish list kind of thing. And I'll hustle, just like I hustled to get this meeting with you. I'll hustle to get a meeting with somebody else and you can spend your barter credits with them. And then once they join, I'll have 2 and then we'll just keep,
This is what we're gonna do.
Here I am, 20 years old. The mindset of the business owners and entrepreneurs wasn't thinking about this idea. I was way too early to market. I was young, naive, what I probably played to my advantage, being super naive. And so just one by one, we just kept building. And then you'd build 3 and then lose 1. And then you build 10 and lose 4. And over the course of time, you just stick to it, and it builds. And so now we're approaching almost 4,000, and we're doing transactions. We're getting ready to do a transaction actually with a large retailer from Alberta who recently converted $500,000 worth of idle inventory into barter credits. And now they're spending that in one lump sum with a vendor to put in a new digital pricing system on their shelves. So they don't have to use the paper cards anymore. They're going to have this digital pricing system. And it literally is a $500,000 expense that's being replaced by this idle inventory, instead of them having to pull another 500,000 cash out of their big bank. And they've got the money to do it, but it's smarter to barter. No rhyme intended. It's smarter to barter than it is to pull the cash out of the bank.
That should be a hashtag. If that's not a hashtag, it needs to be our new hashtag.
Exactly.
We'll write that down. Okay. It's like so interesting to hear all of this unfold. And and I just want to point back to this, because I remember my first time ever getting into business. Like, I was never taught to be an entrepreneur. I was taught to go to university and get good grades and go down that path. Right.
Yeah.
But I always had this entrepreneurial heart. So way back in the day, I remember getting into network marketing. I didn't even know what that was when I was 21, way back in the day. And I remember driving around to naturopath stores and trying to pitch my juice to naturopaths and stores and health food. And I want to bring up the hustle that you had, because we are in a click and buy culture. We are in an instant gratification culture. And so many people don't realize what it takes to build something of significance. And so I think, going through all of those things, step by step, one by one, evolving over time, gave you the tenacity and the conviction and the discipline to build what you have, right? So I actually think that was all part of your plan. I'm sure that you wish that it happened faster than 25 years.
Oh yeah.
But, sure, right? But now all of that is paying off, and now that's coming to a head. And so, I would love to, if it's cool with you, I just became a VIP with Barter It. And so I'd love for you to share with people how they can actually get involved and maybe just dip their toe in the water and see what this is like in Canada.
For sure. Yeah. Well, we should probably talk about what Barter It is, because Barter It is different than Barter Pay. Is that good to go in that order? Or?
Yes, please. Let's go that route. So you tell me, because you're the expert.
Yeah, it's all good. So Barter Pay is our B2B solution. If you have a business in Canada, small business, big business, doesn't matter. And with Barter Pay, we actually have what are called barter coaches. So real life people. So yes, we have a technology that helps keep track of the barter credits and all that, kind of we issue a monthly statement, so on and so forth. But we really want to connect every single business with a real life person, a barter coach. And so these barter coaches, manage a portfolio of 200 to 300 businesses each. And we've got 20 coaches already across Canada. And so they're basically helping you barter. So they come alongside businesses in 2 ways. Number one, to help you market your spare capacity out to the system in order for you to earn incremental revenue through the barter economy. And number two, possibly even more importantly, to help you take that new revenue stream that doesn't expire and go and use it in the system and get, things that you need from the network. And so that allows you as a business owner, for all who are listening, who are business owners, to actually continue to run your business. Your job is to make your business as healthy as possible from a cash flow perspective. Our job is to help keep as much of that cash in the bank as possible in terms of your profits, and help you barter your spare capacity to reduce expenses. So that's what Barter Pay. Barter It is going to be for people. So back in 2020, we had a lot of people approaching us saying, "Hey, can you build something for non-business owners, just everyday Canadians that are nervous about the future of money and that sort of thing?" And we're like, "Yeah, we'll think about it." And we were just trying to survive 2020, 2021 with all the crazy lockdowns, right? So but in 2022, early after the Freedom Convoy, we really started to go 10, 25x on the inquiries about a person-to-person sort of bartering system. And we thought, okay, if not now, then when? And if not who? If not us, then who? Is kind of what was going through my mind. And so I said to Debbie, this is going to be another season of major investment and that sort of thing. We actually ended up selling another house in August of last year just to have the funds on standby that we were going to go all in again if we had to. I'll talk about that in a second with the whole investment thing. But so anyway, we were ready to go again. And we decided to launch a landing page last August or September. It was near the end of August, beginning of September, a little landing page called barterit.ca. And we had almost 5,000 people join our wait list to be notified when we launched this solution. And then we launched Instagram in like late September, Barter_it, at Barter_it. And then that started to really take off. And then all of what I call now the freedom influencer community in Canada really started to kind of hear about our story and started to like, tell it and share our content, and got excited. And so, yeah, we've had like, I think we're now at about 7,000 people that are kind of like coming on board and, joining our wait list and buying our VIP, which you mentioned. So we thought, hey, well, how could we like kind of like do like a bit of a crowdfunding kind of campaign? And we didn't want to use Kickstarter or Indiegogo and pay all those big commissions and have a other platform to deal with. So we actually just built our own vip.barterit.ca, and people have been going there. They've been buying their VIP membership, which is like includes a lifetime subscription when we launched this Barterit solution, and 1,000 bits credits. So barter credits in Barter Pay, and bits are the equivalent in Barter it. And 1 for 1 bit equals $1 for valuation. And so, yeah, these VIPs are flying off the shelf now. So now we're raising money that way, but it's also great for the people buying them because they're the early adopters. They're getting a great deal. It's helping to help fund our growth and our build out. At the same time, we've got investors contacting us, which is crazy. It blows my mind that people have, they've sold their house. This one lady sold her house in Halifax, bought something in Costa Rica or Mexico, I think it was. And
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, exactly. And they bought this, and they're like, "We got extra money, John, and we saw you on Instagram. Like, this is like 4 months ago, and we want to invest in your company. How do we do it?" So I had to find a freedom lawyer, which I found. He drafted all the documents, and we just literally inked our first 2 investors last week, and the money showed up in the bank yesterday. And we've got this big lineup of investors too. So it's all these people are just coming together, and like you said, it's for such a time as this. Like literally, it's the culmination of our life's work and our team. We've got a really well tenured team as well of 20 plus people, and some of them been with me for like going on 18 years, 17, 18 years. So
wow.
They've stuck with it as well through thick and thin, even though they could have gone and make more money somewhere else. I think that they just, caught wind of the vision early on and really just understand what, my passion and Debbie's passion and where we're headed. And they see us doing some pretty big, crazy, audacious things to keep the lights on. And so
they see your commitment.
Yeah.
So John, can you tell the audience a little bit about your kids over COVID and tell them about the business and how this unfolded and how they used Barterit to build a business?
For sure. Yeah. So I'm really all about solutions. Yes, I understand that a big major problem surfaced in March of 2020. And, I lamented for a couple of weeks there. And then I was like, okay, we got to move on. Like, in my mind, I'm like, because we still had a business to run. And not even just run, like the Barter just went 10x in terms of Google searches. And so we became sort of, like I said, like more of a prominent solution that people talked about, right? Became almost a necessity, not just that'd be nice to have. Anyway, my kids were working at a restaurant when this all went down and got laid off, of course. And after about 2 or 3 weeks of playing video games in the basement, I've got 4 sons. They're now age 23 down to 16 this coming June, a couple months. And at the time they were like, whatever, 20 down to 13. And so I said to the 2 older boys, go get a couple of those CERB checks, because they hadn't done that yet, and take a couple of CERB checks. You have to start a business. I don't care. You're either going to, learn or win. Like there's no failure. Get out there and do something. And so they decided to launch a window cleaning company, like windows and gutters and that sort of thing, and very low cost to entry. So they spent that $4,000, 2 CERB checks each, one CERB check each, which became $4,000, put in a bank, bought all their like specialty equipment out of the US, like the whatever they call them, T-bars, the squeegees, all that, ladders and whatnot. And then we said, okay, well, let's leverage the barter economy to launch you guys here. And so, of course, every small business when they start out has to have a website and a logo and marketing. In this case, they needed flyer distribution and a bookkeeper and, lawn signs and T-shirts and hats and decals on their truck and so on and so forth. So we're like, okay, we're going to give you what's called a barter loan. And we've done this a lot now for businesses over the last decade. We're going to give you a barter loan. So we're going to advance you 10,000 barter credits as a loan, like a business loan. You're going to go access the barter pay economy and get the things that you need from, on that list, the things that you can't, pay cash for. And so, sorry, not the things you can't pay cash for, the things that you can barter for, but, through the system. And so they did that. We got the loan. They went and got all those things I just talked about through barter credits, right? Then we started to advertise their services, the Porter Bros window cleaning, out to the Niagara region where they lived, to the barter pay system. And they quickly got $10,000 worth of business back from the ecosystem. That's that reciprocation I was talking about, right?
Yeah.
But they ended up on all these big streets with all these business owners all over the Niagara region, and all the neighbors are coming out. Of course, everybody's locked down in their house. They're coming out like, oh, can you just come clean my windows too? And so those were all regular paying customers, right? And so they launched their business off of a barter economy, off the barter pay economy. And in the first, they launched in like April of 2020. And by December 15th of that year, like 8 months later, they had done over 6 figures in revenue.
Amazing.
Right? These 2 young kids that were like 20 and 18. And anyway, long story short, Aiden and our third son, Tommy, they run that business full time. And it's their 4th season. They got employees. They're adding another crew and another crew next year. So it's a going concern. They got like 700 customers.
Wow.
And yeah, it's nuts. And our second son that had started it with our first son, so Jackson, and our second son had started it with Aiden, our oldest. He went on to university in the fall of 2021 at Waterloo for engineering, which is kind of funny because 25 years ago to the exact time, that's when I was going to be going to engineering at Waterloo. And here I am watching my son actually do that, right? So that was kind of cool. That was kind of cool.
That is cool. So I have to ask you, because I know people are going to want to know, we kind of mentioned it before, but is it true that you bartered your way into Gary Vee's office?
I did. Yes.
And so I have to ask about that story, because I think that it's such an incredible story. And again, tenacity and conviction and discipline. And like, you just keep asking and going after, like I heard you say, you like mumbled it, but you're like, before you got Terry, your first guy, there was a lot of people that said no, right? There's a lot like no, you hear a lot as an entrepreneur, and it's normal. And so many people count themselves out and don't think that they should have to face adversity or challenges to build a big business or one of significance, one of impact, right? So I'd love to hear, how that all came to be and what happened in the process.
Yeah, for sure. My mom would say I was the kid that always said, but why? But why? But why? So it's like every time there was a no, I was like, but why? But why? How come?
Great question. It served you well.
Yeah. So that was interesting growing up in that environment. And anyway, yeah. So it was no's to me are just like, it's just you're closer to the yes. I know that's cliche, but it's just kind of the way it is for me and the way it is in the world. So it's in January of 2017. 5 years ago, just a few months ago, I actually attended my first kind of like entrepreneurial event, like a live event. I'd never been to one before. And it was called Haste and Hustle down in St. Catharines, Ontario, up here in Canada. And Haste and Hustle, I show up there. I actually helped her, believe it or not. I saw the event advertised on Facebook. I was like, oh, it's her first year. She's probably not going to sell out. She's probably got like advertising and sponsorship opportunities. I'm going to contact her and help her barter, tickets and sponsorships for things that she might need. And we ended up like helping her barter like $5,000 worth of sponsorships for a bunch of wine she needed for a VIP event and some other things, and printing and banner stands and all sorts of things. Anyway, so I show up at this event. Gary Vee's the keynote speaker. Never heard the guy before, didn't know who he was.
No way.
No, I'd never heard of it. Like I literally wasn't following the whole entrepreneurial movement until like 5 years ago. I was just kind of in my lane, raising my kids. Like they were busy, 4 boys, right? From age 23 all the way till 40. And so it was, I was just kind of like in my zone, building the business, building a family and playing hockey. Anyway, so he's the keynote speaker. And I'm like, wow, this guy, like I resonate with this guy. He's all about hustle. And, he talked about trading in the lunchroom when he was younger and all sorts of things, hockey cards. So I get close to him afterwards, and he was like doing selfies with people. And as I did that, I was like, hey, by the way, I'm John Porter, Canada's barter guy. I'd love to chat with you sometime about this bartering system that I'm building up here in Canada. Maybe we can bring it to the US or whatever. And he's like, yeah, makes sense. Anyways, I started to get close to him, and I actually followed his videographer around, David Rock, and got into the green room and was like, nodding. He was doing a private interview. And on the way out, I'm like, walking beside him now, and I was probably pestering him here. Yeah, I pulled out my phone and started doing a selfie video, and I asked him a question. I say, so how should I just tweet you? How am I going to get in touch with you to talk about this? He's like, yeah, just tweet me. I believe in what you're doing. I do. I'll see the tweet. I was like, okay, no problem. So I said goodbye. And then about a week later, I started to kind of tweet and direct message and tweet and direct message. And then it went on Instagram. I started to kind of figure out where he was in the world, because he was like either in Belgium or he was in LA or he was wherever he was in the world. And I was trying to make sure I didn't, I could hit him at different times of the day with these messages. Anyway, to no avail. I sent him well over a couple hundred messages, and he preaches this, right? Like, don't give up, send 1,000 DMs.
Yes,
it doesn't
yes.
matter. And so I just stuck with it, kept sending the messages. But I was getting just ghosted, which is fine. I mean, maybe he didn't even see it. Maybe his team didn't even know, right? And so I was like, okay, well, if that's the case, I'm not going to settle for a no or a ghost. I'm going to figure out a different way to get into the office and get the meeting. And so I wanted to use bartering to get there, of course, as part of the brand and the whole story. And so I actually started to formulate in my mind and reverse engineer a series of barter transactions that could get me into his office without him knowing. And so the first thing I had to do was kind of figure out, okay, well, who might Gary V owe a favor to that I could actually sort of provide something to that person and barter with them to get that favor for myself, right? The meeting. Yep. And so I thought long and hard, and then it popped into my mind, oh, well, the person who is going to be really close to Gary that's probably owed a favor would be a guy named David Rock, who was the videographer that I had followed around at the event. But more importantly, the guy who's been following Gary around for 18 months, excuse me, and cutting the Daily V, which was basically Gary's daily blog or vlog or whatever. And so I messaged, I search in Instagram, David Rock, at David Rock, and it comes up at David Rock is the top one, but the next one down is at David Rock NYC. And I saw his picture there. So I click on at David Rock NYC, and I start looking at David Rock's Instagram. Where did he go to university or college? What's his favorite sports team? Maybe I can get him a signed jersey or whatever, and I'll help him trade that way. Anyway, I'm scrolling through. I saw a few things that might have worked, but then it dawned on me like, oh my goodness, I hit the back arrow and I went back to the search, and I'm like, the top one at David Rock. Like, if there's anything he would ever want in the world, it's probably the David Rock Instagram
handle.
Right? Because they're all about their personal brand and being aligned, everything. So I click on at David Rock, the one that was above his, and this is where it gets kind of like almost weird, but it's not, because it's more of a divine thing. I click on David Rock, and wouldn't you know, it pops up the profile of a guy named Derek Vanderweer, who goes to my church in my hometown.
Stop it.
Yes. And I'm like, I don't know how many Instagram users there are in the world, but I think it's, I don't know, maybe at the time it was like 500 million or whatever, even if it was whatever, 500 million users or whatever. Like, the one that I need to do a deal with is literally in my hometown, goes to my church. I didn't know him really well, but I knew him enough. And that was kind of I was gobsmacked, right? And so I shoot Derek a quick message. I'm like, Derek, how attached are you to this at DRock, handle? He's like, oh, some guy from New York has messaged me about that. Of course, it was David Rock. I was like, well, don't do a deal with him. Like, can we work something out? He goes, yeah, sure. What are you thinking? Like, it was my nickname when I was younger, but we could work something else out. I was like, okay, well, I know you just moved into a new house. Do you need a roof? Do you need a, landscaping or whatever? He's like, no, I'm a handy guy. I'm an electrician. I can do all that myself. I was like, oh, I noticed on Facebook, your daughter does this show jumping, like with horses.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something I can do there. And it popped into my mind that we had a client in Newmarket, Ontario called Schleza Custom Saddles. So I thought, wow, if I could actually acquire a saddle using barter credits, then I could actually take that saddle and trade it to Derek for the Instagram handle, and I'd be golden. So he's like, oh, if you can get me a custom saddle from Schleza, like, I'll trade you the name, no problem. And this is like a $4,000 or $5,000 saddle, right? So I'm like, great. A little bit of a digital handshake with him, just said, hold tight. Next day, I message and call up the CEO of Schleza, who's one of our clients. I had never dealt with her directly, but got her on the phone. I told her what I was up to, and she's like, you know what? We have kind of a waiting list for these saddles, but I see what you're trying to do here. I'm willing to make it happen. So she agreed to sell me the saddle with these barter credits. And then again, I went back to Debbie, my wife, and said, well, we got to earn some barter credits. So guess what? We're taking some of our furniture out of our house, and we're going to put it on the barter pay system and sell some furniture and get the barter credits we need. She's like, okay. So, we set it all up. We were going to sell some furniture from our house, get the barter credits, take the barter credits, buy the saddle, take the saddle, get it for the name, the handle, and then take the handle and go to DRock. And so I did all that sort of digitally and standby. And then I went to D-Rock and sent him a message. Hey, what would you want to trade me for this? Or sorry, do you want this at D-Rock handle? He's like, yeah, absolutely. Like, what do you want for it? Like $1,000? I was like, no. I want a meeting with Gary. He's like, Gary V? I said, yes. He's like, no effing way. I'm not gonna ask him. I'm not gonna use my personal closeness for a favor for me for this deal. I'm like, no problem. Have a nice day. We left on a great note. And that was in February, like mid-February 2017. It took me about 30 to 40 days to put the string together. And so mid-February. So I kind of had to play poker. Like I literally did not message him February, March, April, May, June, July, August, like the end of August of 2017. I get like a ping on my phone. I'm at my in-laws for dinner. And it says, are you still up for that trade? From David Rock. And I'm like, yeah. He goes, okay, well, call me tomorrow and tell me your whole story and I'll see what I can do. And so he called me I called him the next day, got on the phone, told the story. He's like, this is amazing. Like, it's poetic. It's like, it's super meta. And he's like, I'll pitch it to Gary, see what he says. 3 days later, I get an email from David Rock. Gary said yes to the meeting. So that was August. September the 5th, 2017, like 3 weeks later, I show up in New York with my team, my own videographer. We sit down. And the first thing I say to Gary, do you know how I got this meeting? He's like, I don't remember. I was like, oh, we met like 9 months ago at Haste and Hustle. I'm Canada's Barter guy. You told me to tweet you and I kept messaging you, but you wouldn't get back to me. So I had to find another way to get in front of you. And he kind of got a bit annoyed at first. And then he's like, I said, so I happen to know a guy with the D-Rock handle. And then he starts to laugh. And then he respects the hustle. Yeah. We have a great, 13, 14-minute conversation. It was only supposed to be a 5-minute meeting. His assistant came in 3 times during the meeting to say, your next meeting's here. And he kept saying, no, I'm good. And so it was really a cool moment. And he put it on his social media, got a couple million views, came back from that and launched Barter Pay like 4 months later. So that was the impetus.
Wow, that is so cool. And in business, like it's such a picture perfect example of business and building relationships with people and networking and how business should be done. Like all good business is referral business. And if you take the time to share your story and get in front of the right people and serve them, right? Like the main thing that I tell people right now, there's so many people out there that are trying to sell stuff. They're just trying to sell stuff to people. I said, if you learn how to find a group of people that you can serve and then create something, a product, a system, a service that serve them at their most basic instinctual need, you will have people that rely on you and build trust with you so much faster than you try and pitch them on something, right? Yeah. And so for you to have that story of exactly how your business should work and be able to get into Gary V's office. I know you just did that really big deal. You said $500,000 deal through this, with just sitting stock. And now people can start to think a little bit differently, right? Like to start to come up with these concepts. Because by the way, you don't think like most people. I really admire how you think and how convicted you are in finding a way to what you want. Most people won't take the time and won't have the tenacity to continue to go down that path, but you have. And so I just really want to give you props for that, John. I really appreciate you and I appreciate you taking the time to have this interview with me and share your story. If people want to be an investor, they want to become a VIP and be on the wait list, make sure that you reach out to me and I'll send you a link. If you'd like to know more about investing in a bigger way with John, how can people connect with you, John?
So I have on Instagram, I'm at, like all one word, at the Barter Coach. That's on Instagram. I also am currently managing the Instagram for Barter It itself. So at Barter_it. I think I mentioned that already. Our website for Barter Pay is barterpay.ca. You can go there. If you want to kind of learn more about that, all you do is get started. We want to book like a quick 10, 15 minute free kind of discovery call just to make sure there's fit kind of thing. Sure. And it's john.porter@barterpay.ca. That's my email. If you want to just email me, you can do that too. So yeah, lots of ways to get involved. And like you mentioned, just build a solution that really connects with people right where they're at, and you attract your ideal customer. And in this case, our ideal customer is the millions of freedom-loving Canadians across the country that want to build a new way to transact and exchange value. And so that's why Barter It is such an important tool. And we need to be all in though. We're literally inviting people into this story, right? This 25-year story, which is, it's going to be like the whole overnight success, 30 years in the making.
Right, of course.
And literally, like, we're coming up on 30 years in a few years. And I think that's when Barter It is going to be like millions of like-minded Canadians being able to have this new way to exchange value. But it's going to take people coming in to the story, putting in the $197 to buy your VIP, or, which getting back a great return. It's helping to propagate the system that everybody wants. So let's all do it together and actually make it happen, right? We just happen to be the ones that have the expertise to lead it, manage it, and build it. So
absolutely.
Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah.
If this is something that you are interested in being a part of, if this is something that you want to support, because I think it's a great idea, $179, and you also get 1,000 barter credits with that, right?
Yeah,
like very, very good value to be a part of this.
Yeah.
I just, again, John, I want to thank you so much. Is there anything you want to leave them with?
Man, we've talked about a lot.
Everything.
Just that we're grateful. Honestly, we're super grateful. Like, I'm literally gobsmacked every day. I wake up and I see more VIPs coming in, and I see people sending me messages every day, and I read every single one. I reply to every single one, and it's like, oh my goodness, like Debbie, like, literally, it's for such a time as this. Like, there's no other way to say it. So it's like, I'm just super grateful, blessed, happy, honored that we're in the position to serve as, so many people in this way, right at the right moment in time. So, and having gone through being chiseled away and punched in the face for 25 years, to have the perseverance and the stick-to-itiveness to actually see it through, right? There's not much we haven't faced at this point. So we're all in. Go to at Barter_it, and watch the reels. You'll see all those stories we talked about, the Porter Bros. We didn't even talk about the Freedom Falcons. That's there. Our trip to Ottawa, the selling the farm, the Gary V story, like, it's all there. Yeah.
Thank you so much. You guys, if you have gotten anything out of this and you want to support this cause, which I am so gung-ho to support, please share this video, share this podcast, share it out with people that you know, and get the word out so that we can support them, because there is no one else doing something like this. And we all have to come together and support each other. And I do believe in freedom, and I do believe that good will win, and that we will have a really great community of people that come together for this program. So thanks again, John. Mm-hmm. We'll have you back again as you continue to launch different things, so that we can support you in that way as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me on. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Have a great day, guys. Bye for now.